Okay, so there's a couple of interesting turn of events since the moon show. We have a couple of breaking news, Bitcoin rebounding to $83,000. And there's a couple of charts that I want to get into, including the weekly chart for Bitcoin, the CME gap for Bitcoin, and also the global liquidity around the world. So we'll talk about these things. There's some breaking news from Senator Cynthia Lummis, which is very, very cool. There's a reintroduction of the Bitcoin Act that failed. The one that was introduced in Nashville in 2024 unfortunately failed in the first committee, but we have a new one, and I'll get into why that is important as well. The S&P saw the worst, or in fact, the NASDAQ saw the worst drop since 2022, which is kind of abysmal. And we bought the dip, of course, and we're going to talk about if the dip will continue dipping, the dippity dip of the dip, if that will continue happening, or if that was the bottom specifically. And also we'll talk about Ethereum and the rest of the altcoin market. So with that said, guys, make sure to destroy the like button, subscribe if you're not a crypto kid yet. We're super, super, super close to 50,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. It would mean the world to me if you do. And with that said, as always, guys, destroy the like, subscribe, and let's jump into the price of Bitcoin. So let's go over to Bitcoin and crypto and cryptocurrency, as Trump likes to call it. So yeah, this is the weekly time frame that I was referring to. We had a beautiful inverse head and shoulders. We spoke about this for, I don't know, however long on the channel. We saw the breakout to the upside. We caught the move to around $100,000. This was the Trump pump, also fueled by the global liquidity increase. And now, like we spoke on today's video and yesterday as well, like a retest to this line would be just beautiful. And this morning, Bitcoin came all the way down to 76,000, reaching my goal of the mid 70 range when you pair it with the global M2 money supply. So we hit it perfectly. We also tagged the Bitcoin CME gap to the downside perfectly too. We spoke about this over on the channel as well. So congrats if you didn't panic sell your Bitcoin, because we warned you to not do that. We were just going to tag the lower CME gap. And after doing so, we spoke about the price of Bitcoin moving further towards the upside to now tag the $84,800 gap, which should happen either tonight or tomorrow. That is to my expectation that Bitcoin will come up to the upper CME, tag it, and then we'll see what happens. I'm certainly not longing Bitcoin yet until at least we break above this trend line on the daily time frame, because so far we're still in a micro bearish trend. I personally think the probability of Bitcoin flipping bullish again is pretty high due to a couple of reasons, and we'll get into them in just a second. But I'm happy, still massive buy the dip opportunity with this retest. I think it's like if you buy this dip, you are going to be remembered in the next 10 generations for being such a legend to buy that obvious Bitcoin dip. So if you want to do that, you can go to CryptoKid by searching into your toolbar, or of course on this video, go to the video description and sign up to Bybit if you want to buy Bitcoin for the first time. And also, you can sign up to Coinflare or Weeks. Coinflare gives you up to $68,000 in rewards if you want to buy Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency using the Flare shop. And Weeks can airdrop you anywhere between 10 to 100 USDT in random if you sign up using this link down in the description below. So right now, great time to be buying Bitcoin. The time to be longing Bitcoin is if we see a reversal of the trend on the daily time frame. That is the breaking updates for Bitcoin. Breaking news, why is Bitcoin rebounding? Why is the stock market rebounding from this morning? Well, there's been a kind of a interesting situation between Canada and Trump. So we have a new Canadian prime minister. And 5 hours ago, President Trump said that he's raising the tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum to 50% because Canada has to drop their immense 250% to 390% tariffs on various US dairy products, which is true, but it's not entirely true. They do have some sort of tariffs, but it's not direct. Like there's some certain trading agreements, and it all makes sense if you look into it in detail. But unfortunately, politicians use marketing to make things look as it doesn't really is. And I can say, so politicians make things look in the way that it's actually not for them to appear right. So hopefully that made sense. But yeah, there was an interesting situation between Canada and America. President Trump says all tariffs on Canada will disappear if Canada becomes the 51st state of the US. Obviously, that's never going to happen. And then President Trump slammed Canada for its 25% tariffs on electricity. Then Canada files to sell US dollar bonds in response to these tariffs. And then Canadian Prime Minister says that he will ensure Canada's response has maximum impact onto the United States. Then the US resumed military and intelligence aid to Ukraine after Ukraine signed the peace treaty, well, not peace treaty, but ceasefire deal with the US. That also led the markets to go a little bit to the upside. And then finally, 30 minutes ago, Canada agreed to suspend 25% electricity tariffs on the US. So this kind of tariff situation in Ukraine has allowed the S&P to see a bit of a bounce, right? Nothing significant, but we're back to a break even past 24 hours. Still, there is no sign that, okay, this is it. It's kind of, we're back. We're so back. This is not the sign for a we're so back just yet. But it's good, right? We were seeing a good reversal emerald candle. And will that be the bottom? I think time will tell. There's no way of knowing whatsoever just now, because you are reversing the trend after a huge bullish run since 2023, consolidation, breakdown, reversal of trend, pretty textbook. So I'm not going to tell you that, okay, all fear is over, but I will say that it is definitely a great buying the dip opportunity. Like I bought the dip this morning at 78,500. I'm going to keep on doing it if it continues dipping because, look, Bitcoin is paired very much with the global M2 money supply. And we showed the correlation between Bitcoin and the M2 money supply. They correlate beautifully well. So we're basically coming down to the max pain point for the M2 money supply. Global liquidity has began increasing once again. We're actually almost surpassing prior all-time highs. The money printer is slowly coming back. It's not fully come back yet, but it will come later down this year with the Fed also cutting rates. I think it's going to happen very soon. Not in this FOMC meeting, which will take place in like 1 week, but it will happen either in May or in June. So quantitative easing will arrive eventually, and that will help altcoins, which have been bleeding massively. And we'll talk about altcoins as the final topic in this video. But before we jump into alts, final Bitcoin news, Senator Cynthia Lummis reintroduced the Bitcoin Act after it flopped in the first committee stage during the bill approval process. So that makes sense because now we have a Republican majority Senate and also I believe a Congress too. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat section down below. But now we have the GOP whip being a Bitcoin bull, which is unbelievable. The whip of a party has the most sort of influence to get legislation to go through. So that's incredible bullish news. And then you have around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 senators out of 100 senators basically backing this bill. And you have like senators posting laser eye pictures, and I think that's a great sign. I think that's a very, very bullish sign. They're going to be coming to Vegas to speak about Bitcoin too. There was the Bitcoin Policy Institute this morning where Vivek and other senators spoke about Bitcoin. So things look good. It will take time for this bill to go through. I think it will go through during this administration, either this year or next year. But it will not end up being, in my opinion, we're not going to see the 200K Bitcoin per year for 5 years, 1 million Bitcoin, and minimum hodl of 20 years. So usually these bills, before they get fully introduced, they get dissected, they get analyzed, things change, and it becomes a completely different bill. So yes, there's going to be something, but I doubt it's going to be this exactly. And the name may even end up changing. So just FYI on that. And finally, guys, altcoins and specifically Ethereum. If you go to Ethereum USD, we spoke about Ethereum in a bit more detail over on the Moon Show today. And I showed you the correlation that Benjamin Cohen spotted a couple of days ago, where you look at the weekly time frame now, you're seeing the huge breakdown from this massive upward sloping trend line, which I didn't expect to break down, but we did. That was terrible. And then you can look back into 2019 and Ethereum broke down from a similar upwards trending line. Of course, not exactly the same, because at this point we came almost back to all-time highs. It was very much different, but similar situations in the sense that, you know, what point of the cycle we're in the monetary cycle, not the Bitcoin cycle, but monetary cycle. So you can see that as soon as the Fed started cutting rates, the price of Ethereum tanked from highs of $380 down to initially $120, right? So the same sort of dump is happening. Initially, Fed starts to lower rates, boom, the price of Ethereum drops, and then the Fed stays stable like we are doing so right now, and then boom, another rate cut. And that causes the price of Ethereum to capitulate again. So we could see a retest back to the 2.7 area. I wouldn't be surprised if it if that happens, specifically after this FOMC event. But if we get another cut, there could be one more final drop before we come down to very low interest rates, which should happen by Q3 of this year. And then you see massive altcoin season. So that's my only shift in takes. Of course, whatever I'm talking about on Ethereum here is pretty much applicable to every single altcoin. Yesterday, I spoke about Avalanche being at like its lows since 2023. And again, I would be buying these altcoins that have good, solid businesses behind them. It's like buying into altcoins back in the previous bear market, which you obviously, not everybody had the chance to do it. So if you have money on the side, please, please, please consider accumulating some good altcoins. Cardano went down all the way to 0.64 yesterday, now back up 10%, but again, still down to its 2023 lows. Nothing comparable to where it was back in the 2021 bull market. Dogecoin went down all the way to 14 cents today. Unbelievable. Another fantastic buy. So please consider buying altcoins. Don't put like a ton of money, which will get you anxious. But if you can put some money by keeping your Bitcoin portfolio dominant, I don't think there is harm in doing that whatsoever. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great night, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. And as always, guys, have a wonderful evening.